Welcome back to another episode. Today's guest is Darren Kennedy. Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. No one ever asks how I'm doing.
I always want to know. Curious like that, you know?
Today we're going to talk about his life as both a host and a fashion influencer. Darren Kennedy is a popular Irish TV presenter, style expert, and entrepreneur, originally from Dublin. Is that correct? Dublin?
It is. Yeah, spot on.
He's hosted heaps of shows on BBC, ITV, and RTE, shows like You Are What You Wear and Celebrity Closets. He's also the contributing editor for the Daily Front Row and co-founded the men's grooming brand Kennedy & Co. He's the Kennedy. Darren is passionate about LGBTQ rights and lots of other queer stuff. He connects with his listeners through his podcast called The Number, where he explores the idea that life can be measured in numbers. Some of you might have even discovered me as a guest on his podcast, even though, to be honest, I really did not have much to offer the world of numbers. Darren, thank you so much for taking the time, braving the traffic to the west side to come and be on this show.
Delighted to be here. And you were an excellent guest on The Number.
Thank you. I did my best.
You did. You were very
I
good.
looked at my numbers before I did your show. I Googled numbers and I looked at them.
You Googled your own numbers?
No, I just Googled numbers.
Oh my God.
I just made sure I knew all my
so
numbers.
So it was AI answering, basically, was it?
Maybe. I have prepared a rapid-fire series of questions for this audience to get to know you better in a series called Who the Hell Are You? What's your name?
Darren Kennedy.
Zodiac sign?
Capricorn.
Ooh, what are you an expert in?
Enjoying my life.
How do you identify on the gender and sexuality spectrum?
He, him, gay.
He.
Yeah.
What is your favorite animal?
Dog.
Least favorite animal?
I don't have one.
Love that. Last thing you ate?
A omelette with avocado and chicken and chili. Made it myself as well. Very proud of myself.
How many caffeinated drinks do you drink per day?
I've actually reduced it recently. I'm now down to probably 2 or 3. I was probably 4 or 5.
What is your caffeinated beverage of choice?
If I make it myself, I just have a black, nice, strong Americano. And if I'm getting one outside, probably a cappuccino with regular milk.
Biggest pet peeve?
People not washing their hands after the toilet.
Dream vacation destination?
I really want to go to Japan, but I want to go for like 2 months and really immerse myself in some little fishing village somewhere.
Favorite sport or game?
I don't have one. I don't have a favorite sport.
No games?
I mean, games, probably Pictionary.
Favorite thing about queer bars?
The people in them.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being a virtual hellscape and 10 being a queer utopia, how are things looking for queer people in America right now?
That's a rapid fire question?
It's one number.
I would say 7, 6.
What is the last item that you misplaced?
My glasses.
Where were they?
Well, they were on my desk. Surprise, surprise, but I couldn't find them.
Better than on your face. What is the last thing you were super mad about?
Sitting on my glasses. And I totally broke them. So these arms used to be straight across, but now you can see there's a dip.
No.
So I had to bend the other one to make them match.
I'm not going to be able to unsee it now. Thank you so much for letting me know about that. What is the last thing that made you cry?
Gosh, I can't remember. The last thing that made me cry is probably my favorite song by Future Islands. So it just brings me to tears sometimes.
What is the location of the worst date you've ever had?
West Hollywood.
What is your most prized possession?
I don't have a most prized possession.
Oh, look, here's mine. Spring cleaning isn't just for finally tossing that fedora you swore would make a comeback. It's for hitting reset on your grooming routine. Manscaped's Beard and Balls bundle has you covered from cheek to cheeks, clearing out the overgrowth winter left behind. It's time to weed whack, hedge trim, and make sure the lawn is looking manicured for the season, because nothing says fresh start like a sharp beard, and more importantly, a properly landscaped lawn. Join over 12 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped. It's all-in-one grooming. Their skin-safe technology is designed to minimize nicks and irritation. These tools are gentle where it matters most, which is something that's worth every single penny. The trimmers have long-lasting power, are designed to be waterproof, and are luggage-friendly with a built-in travel lock. Manscaped offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can try the Beard and Balls bundle completely risk-free. Don't cut corners on your grooming routine. Upgrade to the Beard and Balls bundle from Manscaped. Visit manscaped.com and use code MAXEMERSON to get 20% off plus free shipping. Or, if you need it today, you can find Manscaped at a store near you. Stay fresh this season, for everyone's sake. If you're like me, you want to fuel your body with the best possible ingredients, whether you're working out, staying active, or just looking to maintain a healthy lifestyle. That's why I'm excited to share with you Peori's Whey Protein. Peori's Whey Protein is sourced from grass-fed cows, ensuring that you're getting a clean, pure, and high-quality protein. What sets this protein powder apart is its simplicity and commitment to quality. There are no artificial sweeteners, fillers, or unnecessary additives, just pure protein goodness with a delicious natural bourbon vanilla flavor. Plus, it's sweetened with organic coconut sugar, so it tastes amazing without all the junk. Peori protein powder delivers 21 grams of protein per serving, helping to support muscle recovery, energy levels, and overall wellness. It's great to know that Peori's Whey is certified by the Clean Label Project, ensuring it's free from harmful contaminants like heavy metals and pesticides. Head over to Peori.com and use my promo code MaxEmerson. That's PUORI.com/MaxEmerson and use promo code MaxEmerson today. Let's talk about your career and how you got to where you are today. Because I think there's a lot of baby gays out there who would love to have your job. How did you get started in radio, and how did those early experiences shape kind of how you got to where you are now?
Well, I think first and foremost, the thing I'd say, and I say to anyone who ever asks me for any sort of advice when it comes to like work and career, I think it's like whatever task is asked of you, regardless of how below you may feel it is, do it with 110%.
If you're willing to do it.
Just do it.
Okay.
Just do it. I don't have to, if you're not willing to do it, don't talk to me. Like, just do it. Because we all start somewhere. And I think that, everyone wants to be, well, not everyone wants to be at the top of their game, but everyone has ambitions, right? So if you're a barista and, you want to be the best barista there is, if you're whatever it is you do, be the best at it, basically.
Okay.
And give it 110%.
As long as it's context appropriate for the job itself. Like if someone's telling you to like take your clothes off and you're trying to be a barista,
but
are you saying do that?
No, I'm saying give, whatever you're doing in the moment in terms of your job, which is legitimate, give it 110%.
Take it seriously.
And even if it's not your dream at that moment in time, it's like it can lead to your dream. And also people spot people who work hard and who have ambition and who have like initiative and who want to graft. People spot them. You never know who's around you. So I think it's really important to do. And actually, it's funny that you should start with that question, because a show that I made that I co-developed as well was called The Unemployables. And it was essentially taking that premise and building people up. So it was young people in their teens, maybe early 20s, who'd finished school, who felt like they'd nothing to offer. They felt they were unemployable.
Okay.
So it was really kind of, rolling up your sleeves and kind of showing them that everyone has something to offer if you're prepared to work hard.
As long as you're willing to give proper effort. I am quite an unemployable person, actually. That's why I've had to just like do my own thing as an entrepreneur, because I don't think I'll ever get an interview if I tried to apply for a job.
Well, I mean, I probably feel the same now as well, like unemployable in the traditional sense. But it's more so, I think I probably am employable. I just don't want to work for anyone else. But I still want to work.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think a lot of jobs also want someone that they know will stay with them for years and years. And if you've got this track record of just like bouncing everywhere and doing your thing, they're like, yeah, no, this isn't.
I feel like I didn't really answer your first question though, did I?
Let's talk more about radio.
So I started out doing like radio and TV in the mornings when I was in school. I was in college. I started off working as a production assistant and runner on a morning TV show.
That is a humble job.
Yeah, and I used to make coffee, and I made coffee with such a smile. I was just so happy to be in that environment. I was genuinely excited.
You were Ken the Page from 30 Rock?
I mean, yeah, I was all of those things. And I'd meet and greet the guests, and it was just like, for me, that was like living my best life, because I was in the world that I'd always dreamt of being close to, and I had no idea how I was going to do it. And that was my very early beginnings. And then I started working on community radio. So I did a talk show called Kennedy's Couch. And it was basically a chat show, and I had politicians and authors and playwrights and actors and anyone who had something to say was on my show. And it was an amazing learning curve, because it was before we all had like, MacBooks with editing facilities or on our phones. So I used to record on a mini disc, And if we were sitting down to record, I'd say, "Hey, Max, how are you? Great, really looking forward to this. Just so you know, when I press record, we're technically live," because I couldn't edit it. So I'd have my little notes and I'd read my little intro and I'd be like, "Okay," and we do it. It was great learning, great
No
skill.
cuts,
Yeah.
just go.
No.
Wow.
Yeah. It was fun. Sometimes it was disaster, but they were probably the best episodes.
How would you describe the most disastrous episode that you've had?
I mean, I can be very hard on myself. And that's something that I'm working on in life. And I think sometimes the things that I've maybe perceived as being disastrous weren't disastrous at all. It was, in actual fact, probably lovely.
But you never
because it was very
accidentally
natural.
insulted a guest or
No,
someone had a breakdown. But you can always just choose not to air it too, right?
Well, I tell you, the worst thing that happened was I travelled out on the bus from where I lived on the north side of Dublin to the south side of Dublin. Now, anyone who knows Dublin will know that there's a massive divide. So this was a big gesture for me as an 18-year-old Darren. And I got the bus, 2 buses across, did my interview with Patricia. She's an author. God, her surname escapes me now. She was so lovely. Went into her house, did the interview, was so happy with it. Got back on the bus, was going home, went to listen to it and realized it hadn't taped. So I had to get off the bus, go back and say, "Sorry, can we do that again?" And she very graciously said yes.
Oh,
So that was a disaster.
turned out okay though. I feel like the people who are the highest up in their industries are always the one with, not always, but are often the ones with the smallest ego. They don't have anything to prove, and they generally tend to be very gracious because they've been doing this for so long and they know how hard it is and they know that shit happens. And that's always kind of the models I try to follow.
Yeah.
When things fall apart around me, I'm just like, okay, so who can I be
agree.
nice to right now, I guess?
Just don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
It's quite simple.
That's the golden rule. It's in the Bible.
Yeah.
When did you decide that you were more than just a beautiful voice and that you were going to work in television?
Well, I can't sing for my life, so I'm going to correct you on that one. So I'm not a beautiful voice. I wish I could sing. So many people in my family can, and I can't. I always wanted to work in TV. Broadcast was always where, from the age of 15, 16, where I wanted to be. And I started in radio because, well, it kind of felt like an easier in. I was getting opportunities there. And also it's so much freer. The medium of voice versus all of this, as you know, is a lot simpler. And also it turned out to be an amazing kind of training ground for me because live radio kind of doesn't get more challenging in many respects.
Yeah, you got to roll with anything that happens.
Yeah, and it's lovely. And I just love live as well because when it's done, it's done. And, you don't have people going, "Oh, but the background's a little bit overexposed," or whatever it is. It's done. We're out of there. Bye. Thanks. See you tomorrow.
Local Irish entertainment. I love that. Mm-hmm. You ended up on You Are What You Wear.
Yes.
So you've started transitioning into fashion. How did that kind of shape your approach to fashion and where you want to be in broadcast land?
So what actually happened was I'd gone to university. I studied business and languages. I went and studied at the University of Bordeaux. When I finished, I got a graduate program working in Paris for a year, and life was rosy. And again, my goal was still my goal, but I had just wanted to go and live in France and speak French.
Fair.
And then I moved back home to Dublin, and I ended up working in Google. Funnily enough, they had just opened their office, their European headquarters in Dublin. I was like, I'd rather stick needles in my eyes than work here. Thanks very much. Stayed for a year and a half. It was good fun, but left ultimately. And then I started working in TV production. So creating shows, researching, producing, and doing all of that. And I was working on one particular show. And at the end of it, it was this massive entertainment show. And after the end of 4 months each year, I was just exhausted because you would give 150% of yourself, work crazy hours, and at the end of it, you never really were left with anything in terms of you got a pat on the back. And I was like, hopefully we'll have work for you next time. You were great, bye. And you're like, oh my God. So at the end of 3 seasons of that, I had just said, I need to just pause for a second and just kind of reconnect with what it is I want to do because, I was exhausted. And I had decided that I wanted to go back and learn something just for me as a hobby. And I was like, what'll I do? And I'd kind of whittled it down to 3 areas. One was fashion, garden architecture, or interior architecture and design. The latter two both required major study and going back to school full time, which I wasn't doing.
Fashion, you just need a
Fashion
good,
I could do.
you just need a hot take, baby.
I was like, yeah. And I'd always been like, I remember, I have a vivid memory when I was about 6 or 7 years old. I'd go shopping with my mom, and she loves, my parents liked style as well. And I had a very definite opinion, and I wasn't afraid to voice it, not in an obnoxious way, but I just knew what I liked and knew what I didn't like. So I went off to Central St. Martin's in London, and I did some courses, and then I came back to Ireland and I started working on shows again. But on the side, I set up a personal styling business.
Oh.
And I set up a website. And again, so I'd come from Google. So I thought, I'm going to be so cool and set up a website. And this was before like everyone and its granny had a website. So I set up this cool
Like
little
the
website.
original remote business.
It was good. And then I'd put a blog on it because somewhere along the way I'd seen someone with a blog. I was like, I'm not really sure what that was, but I should do it. If I'm building it now, let's build it into it. And then I noticed that anytime I did a blog post, I was getting huge traction. So I flipped the whole business, and then so it became an online magazine, which I ran for several years, and we used to do awards and all sorts of things, and it was great fun. And then my two worlds collided. So fashion and TV, I started getting called then from TV folk, kind of going, we need someone to talk about this, or can you do this on camera, and so on. And the two worlds collided.
Wow.
I never knew you could actually have a job in fashion, if I'm being honest. I
What do
never
you
knew
mean?
there was an industry. Like when I was growing up, it never occurred to me.
That makes sense. I feel like Irish culture is very tall poppy syndrome. So like to have these classes structured around the way you dress is not something that seems like it would be appealing to the Irish.
Yeah, but not even that way. It's more about like, I didn't realize it was such an industry. And I probably had never even considered it, but like.
Number 2 polluter in the world after petrochemical.
Yeah. But it's still, it also, the flip side of that is it employs thousands and thousands, probably millions of people.
Oh, and it's a massively wonderful means of self-expression and everything else. I'm just being a dick.
Yeah, I spotted that, yeah.
I'm not a big Bible person. When you moved from Dublin, did you go stateside? Did you go to London as a presenter? Because I want to know a little bit about like working in production in Ireland versus other places and what some of those differences are, because it sounds a little wild over there.
You know what? It's very lean. And my earliest experience with working with a US company was, I was working for this production company in Ireland. And I remember we got a call from the producers of The Amazing Race. Mm-hmm. And they were making their first ever hour-long opening episode, and it was being filmed in Ireland. So up until that point, they'd only ever done half hours. Mm-hmm. So we came on as the local production team. And what really struck me was it was this huge team of people. But from where I was standing, 50% of them were unnecessary.
Yep.
So that's what I learned from that. And I'm obviously and also I learned a lot of things from that, actually.
So you brought a lot of that efficiency with you when you came over, or at least that mindset?
Well, it's just how we work. It's just how we operate. Yeah. So, I mean, it just is what it is.
The Amazing Race is a weird show though, right? Because it's all about like rushing to places and climbing things and doing stuff. And they're like showcasing these people doing these feats of strength, but like there's someone doing that with a camera at the same time with one hand.
Yeah.
I
do think it's probably changed since then as well, though, because I think that was, when I think back to it, like that was a time where the industry was very flush with money. And there was there was probably a lot of excesses in many ways. So actually, if you could have more people, why not? Maybe you might use them. Whereas I was kind of, the environment that I was learning in it always felt like money was tight in terms of production. And then even when I moved from Ireland, I sent the tape over to the BBC. I got called for casting and I got a job. And I moved to London and I started working with them. It was kind of similar in many respects. But again, it's a bigger pond.
Yeah. Well, the BBC is also notoriously frugal, right? Their hands are pretty tied. They're very accountable.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're supposed to be. I think they are now, but like, yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely been a large shift. Yeah.
Just going to say yes.
In case anyone's watching and wants to hire me in the future. They're wonderful.
And everything's above board. No, it is actually. They're very good to work for.
When you develop unscripted programming, kind of with these constraints in mind, where do you start? Like, what does your process look like when you're producing something?
Well, it really depends on the project. Oftentimes, I subsequently went on to kind of get my own projects commissioned that I had developed. So that's a different process in itself. Okay. So obviously you have to take something from an idea, something you do a lot, obviously, but take something from an idea to, the page and then sell it. So you have to sell it to the commissioner and you have to convince them that it's worth them spending their money on it. And also, you've got to remember that commissioners, they've got a boss to answer to as well. So, everyone needs to feel happy and confident.
Make their job as easy as possible.
Yeah, and that's a big part of it is like, getting them on board and making them feel comfortable after they've initially shown interest in the idea. And then bringing it to life is it's not just me. It's, you're working with a team and there's producers and you're, like anything, that bring it together and create that vision for it. So it really just depends on what the project is.
I don't think I have any one particular process either. It's really all about being adaptable and flexible. Because like you were saying, you used to have one take on a film that didn't get cut, and now you have as many takes as you want.
Yeah. I mean, it depends. I'm trying to think. I did one of my first shows that I was a producer on was a travel show, which I subsequently went on to host. But so as a producer of a travel show, you have to link in with all these travel agencies and figure out that network and try and get them to give you things. But then I also...
It's a different type of pitching.
It's a different type, yeah.
It's like begging meets pitching.
Well, it's kind of like, this is going to be really valuable for you, pay. Versus, a weight loss show, whereas you're trying to get people... I worked on a show which is called Operation Transformation for a couple of years, an amazing show, which is just, I think it's in its 15th or 16th season now.
Wow.
And it's... The simplest description of it is the biggest loser with heart, right? So it's not about making people feel bad about it. It's Irish.
Irish, okay.
It's sold then subsequently to other markets, but it originated in Ireland. And it's, so the really hard part of that is when you're trying to cast people, because you're not casting people who are skinny. So by definition of actually approaching someone to be on that show, it can be like an awkward conversation.
Kind of like asking when someone's due.
Yeah, and they tell you they're not pregnant.
Yeah. I've never actually had that happen.
Oh, I've had it. Oh, yeah. I will.
On camera?
No, never on camera. No, thank God. I had it once and I was like, oh my God, congratulations. And they're like, no, I'm not pregnant. I was like, literally, I wanted the ground to open up and swallow me in that moment. To this day, I will. I don't care
Maybe
if
they were hiding it.
If there's a foot hanging out, I am not saying it until someone else says it.
Even if there is a foot hanging out.
No.
You don't know whose foot that is.
That's true. It could be just their thing.
Let's talk about the number. Okay. What inspired that? What made you decide you wanted to start a podcast in the first place, and how did you land on numbers?
So I was very reluctant to do a podcast in the first place because I had come from radio. And when podcasts came out, it kind of felt like a lot of the things I had done already. And I'm a big believer in I like to move forward and keep challenging myself. So I didn't want to do a podcast just for the sake of it. Kind of regret that now because it's kind of like that first come.
You've been an early adopter.
Yeah. But I did in lockdown, I had a podcast that I was about to start, which I turned into an Instagram series, which was called The Secret Life of Celebrity Pets. So it was a really fun little idea. And I was kind of chatting to, well-known faces about their pets and kind of getting insight into how they operate with them. Because people are different with their animals, as you know.
Oh, and they do have a very vibrant life without us.
Yes, they do.
They really do.
And then I was kind of like, I want to do a podcast, but it needs to be something that I am interested in. And I was originally toying with the idea of turning 40. And I was like, there's something in that. And it's kind of like a life phase. And you're kind of, you reevaluate things in a different way. But that felt very limiting because, because it's an age which you either are or you are not. So
you can do a whole podcast on turning 40.
Yeah,
you could do whatever you want.
But you're limiting your guests.
Sure. Only 40-year-olds.
Well, then I was like, it could be when you're approaching 40, after 40. And I was like, no, that's just too complicated. And then I was like, there's something in numbers. And that's how it kind of came out. So the premise behind the number is it's 7 questions, as you know, and it's, can you measure a life in numbers? And whether you like it or not, numbers are an intricate part of every aspect of our life. When you were born, the first thing they do is weigh you. And you're told, the baby's 7 pounds.
Well, they spank us first in the States.
Oh!
They get you crying.
Well, yeah. You know what I mean?
Trauma.
But what I mean is the numbers come in very quickly. So bank balance.
It's the first thing you say about a baby when
calories.
It's born.
Yeah. It's like, it's healthy 7-pound baby or whatever it is. And then there's idiosyncrasies or, synchronicities with numbers as well. So some people are very in tune with it. Some people aren't. But, when you start talking about it, it's like, can you remember, tell me about when you first met Andreas. And you mightn't have said this, but a lot of people go, oh God, I remember it was it was the 14th of May and, boom, we've got a number. So it's like, it can just open up into different avenues very, very interestingly.
The day that I met Andres actually is the day after Martin Luther King Day. So it's not the same day every year. It's like the third Monday in the month, like a Thanksgiving kind of thing. So we kind of just have to guess, or we just do it on that sort of cycle, which is kind of fun. But
Just to keep it interesting.
Yeah, and I am just so bad at numbers and anniversaries and things that I kind of strategically picked a date that we would do a wedding on based on like someone's birthday already, so I wouldn't forget.
Do you know what's in your bank balance?
More or less.
You see, you're not that bad in numbers.
Well, that's survival. Darren.
That's how you look at it, right?
What numbers have been significant in your life?
The number 7.
Okay.
Yeah, anything with the number 7 in it. So that also applies to like 17, 27 and so on. And when I was a kid growing up, I was always drawn to number 7, lucky number 7. Like that was my thing.
3, 7, and 11 are like the magic numbers, right?
Apparently, yeah, I think so. And again, I don't even know like that aspect of it, like astrology or spiritual numbers and stuff like that. But it's more just the number itself. And I liked the actual design of it.
Because it's not straight.
Because it's not straight. That wasn't my logic at the time, but maybe it was. Subliminally, I was drawn to the bent one. And so when I look back at kind of like, and I've examined this obviously for the podcast, it's like my life has gone in very clear, definite cycles of 7. Every 7 years, there's a massive shift in my life. And it's really interesting.
Is there an astrological thing that correlates with 7 years?
I don't know. I really don't know. Astrologically, I don't know. That's the thing. Sometimes when I say the numbers, people assume it's kind of astrological linked, but it's not at all.
Yeah, I remember doing the show. It felt less woo-woo than I expected.
It's not woo-woo at all.
Right.
That's the thing. Maybe I should have thought about that with the name, but no, it's not woo-woo whatsoever.
There's an audience for that. Just bring them on in.
Yeah. We did that Tyler Henry on it, actually. He was fascinating.
Yeah?
Yeah, he's got really interesting insights into numbers, as you might imagine. Yeah.
What were some of the takeaways?
Can't actually remember. As soon as I said that, I knew you were going to ask me. I can't remember. Have a listen. It's available now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Anywhere else you get your podcast?
Well done. YouTube. Good tease.
People loved it on YouTube.
Yeah?
Yeah.
7s.
Yeah.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
So when I was 7, I remember feeling distinctly different. Again, not knowing what it was. Oh my God, I've just had a realization. Distinctly different, and also being in the changing room with my mom going, no, not that. And literally saying to the assistant, excuse me, can we have this in red? Or whatever it was.
That's when you became a fashionista.
That's when I was like, I kind of came into that world. Okay. And then when I was 14, obviously discovering that I was definitely like homosexual, but not being able to face it and being riddled with so much shame. 21,
Yeah, but you're Irish. It comes stock.
Well, yeah, I mean, but it's an extra layer. Oof. It was a very deep extra layer. 21, I moved to Paris with a man that I ended up having a relationship with for 14 years. 28, I made a massive shift in my career and left what I was doing. 35, that relationship ended. So
that's a long relationship.
Yeah.
Are there any numbers that just have no redeeming value? Are some numbers just absolute shite, and what are they?
I don't look at numbers that way.
There's not like a number that you're just like, you see it pop up in your life and you know that you're just in for it?
No.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
So they're not like malevolent, benevolent numbers. They're just kind of numbers that pop up and you can form your own image structure based on that.
It's like I have there are little moments where I'm like, something will happen or I'll think of something and I'll just look maybe at my clock and I'm like, oh my God, it's 7:07. And like, that was a good little thing. You know, go, oh, that's nice. Yeah.
As a host, I've noticed that you just have a real knack for making people comfortable, and I don't think it's just the accent. What are some tips and tricks for kind of just making people feel more welcome and comfortable, whether you're pitching or you're having them on a show with you or you're just trying to make a friend?
I will try and answer that question, but I think it's important for me to say that it's not a premeditated thing. Like, it's not like, okay, here's the rule book on how to make people comfortable, because it's just not how I approach things. Mm-hmm. It's genuinely, I come at it with just a very open approach when I meet someone. And I guess one of the things that I instinctually do is find common ground with someone. And I think when you find common ground, and I think that's also being part of Irish, because inevitably we'll know someone who knows someone who knows someone who knows someone who knows someone. So you try and dig into that. Do you know what I mean? Okay. And it was interesting because I on my Instagram, I've started doing this thing called like, what are you wearing today? Where I'm literally stopping people in the street whose outfits I like and just talk to them very briefly about it. And in one of the early ones, and actually in all of them, I say, where are you from? Right? It's kind of like, for me, it's just a natural question. Yeah. And I got this then stream of messages from one particular person who was like, oh, you only asked that person where he's from because he's brown. I'm like, no, I didn't. But do you know what I mean? It's kind of like someone coming at it like with some sort of untoward thing. I'm like, I'll tell you now, I asked because I genuinely was interested. Like,
is this your first time in the comment section?
No, I don't. I was just like, but do you know what? It really irritated me because it implied an undercurrent of something that is totally not what I'm about. And then the fact that I had to justify that just felt wrong. Like, I'm allowed to ask anyone where they're from, and it's not because I'm trying to, you know. But then actually, and I was curious because I thought, okay, maybe I'm blinkered to something. It's not part of my experience, so I actually want to learn.
What does blinkered mean?
Blinkered means like maybe it's like, you know, my experience is making me blind to something. Yeah. So there you go. That'll for Irishisms.
We're gonna have to do a series of Irishisms.
Oh my God, yeah. There's going to be like a glossary for this show. So I kind of on a side, I actually genuinely asked this question. I wanted to understand why they were having this response to me asking where someone who's from is from. And this person very quickly kind of explained that like not being from the US and being a person with brown skin, being asked where they were from was kind of...
The tone of where are you from? You're not from here.
Yeah, there was an undercurrent of racism, which
there's a lot of stink on a lot of phrases here that you kind of have to look out for.
Yeah, it kind of saddened me.
It can be a little tense sometimes, but it comes and goes. There's definitely like moments where like the hackles come up and you have to be a little extra sensitive in making people feel more welcome and just kind of, it comes down to listening, I think, at the end of the day with that one. But it is a fine line with at least being made to feel welcome, because there's like, yes, you want to be acknowledged. You don't want someone just to be on their phone or like pushing you through something, and attentiveness. Like I got to meet Bill Clinton one time and I felt like I was the only person in the room. Like he's so good at it.
So did Monica.
Oh man, I'm sure. I'm sure. And this was like 40 years later.
Oh.
Not that, okay. The point was there's also times where I feel like people are fussing over me, and I hate that. Like there's definitely like a curve with, say, like going to a fancy hotel.
Oh, yes.
They're like ripping the bags out of your hands and like doing this. So they'll put your ski boots on for you. I'm like, I don't like this. I'm not comfortable with this level of attendance.
That's not really like, that's different from showing attention in some, that's like, no, it's a different, that gives me the ick.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, just, I can carry this bag, thanks.
I want to talk about gay daddy. Can you tell me about gay daddy?
I can. Elaborate what gay daddy?
What motivated you to...
I know exactly what gay daddy.
Which gay daddy are we talking about?
Yeah.
Well, it's a documentary, right?
Yeah, so it's a documentary I authored and hosted and pitched. Again, that was one of those original ideas where I was turning 30 and a lot of my friends, my girlfriends, who are still my best friends today, were kind of getting married, settling down and having children. And I was in a long-term relationship at the time, and I was kind of going, what does this look like for me? What, like, can I have kids? Can I be a dad? How does this work? So this is going back to 2013. So, you know, a lot has changed.
Very different rules.
Very different, yeah. And I was looking at it from an Irish perspective. And so it was my kind of journey to find out if and how, as a gay person, I could have a child. And we explored all the different avenues and looked at all the legal hurdles that would have to be jumped. This was pre-gay marriage equality in Ireland, which came in 2016. And the show was massively well received. And I was really nervous about it because even though I was out to everyone, I don't walk around with a rainbow flag.
Yeah.
That's just not who I am. I'm me. And then, yes, I am gay. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was your first time kind of focusing on that aspect of your identity.
Very, like on national primetime TV. So much so I had to sit down with my family first and go, you guys okay with this? Because I would want them to be involved in it, get their take on it. And they were all very supportive. And documentary was, you know, phenomenally well received. It was described as a watershed moment in Irish TV history, which I'm very proud of. And it opened up a debate in society, and really what I think the absolute success of Gay Daddy was not that it was about gay. It actually was a documentary about anyone, gay or straight, who has obstacles with fertility.
Which is 1 in 6 couples today.
There you go.
It's the plastics.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. So that's Gay Daddy in a nutshell. And then, marriage equality came in 2016, of which I was very much part of, kind of, I wouldn't say go so far as to say campaigning for, but I definitely used my voice to share my opinions on what I thought was right. Gay Daddy was kind of like, almost like
a relatable way of sticking your neck out.
Well, it came 2 years before. So it kind of was like, for me, it opened up that space as a space where I could have a meaningful dialogue.
Well, now you're a family-friendly gay.
I've
You're
always
not
been
like
a
one of those
family-friendly
party
gay.
gays.
Party gay. I've always been a family-friendly gay.
What makes you so family-friendly?
You tell me, you said it.
Well, it's a documentary on wanting to have kids. You dress very nicely. You look like you smell good.
I smell
nice.
good. I pride myself in how I smell.
Dear viewer, he smells delicious.
It's Tom Ford, by the way, just if you're wondering.
Delightful. Who's that?
Some dude. He lives in Florida now, I think.
Ew.
I know.
He likes them older. Style and design.
Yes.
Let's talk about your personal style. What advice would you give someone looking to develop their personal style?
A very quick answer to this is dress for you and what makes you feel good. And if you feel what makes you feel good is abhorrent to society in general, well, then look to people whose style you like. So we see people in the media, let's say it could be David Beckham, it could be Paul Mescal, whoever, and just take note. And oftentimes they're just simple things that you can do to improve your style, like understand what colors do and don't work together.
Okay.
And just very simple things. It's not rocket science. And I always say, your clothes and how you dress should improve how you feel, not create hassle in your life. And
I like that.
You know what I mean? And I always think...
Yeah, I always think, consider the context of where you're going.
Yeah, and don't buy clothes you don't like, because then you won't wear them.
Okay.
You'd be surprised the amount of people who buy stuff they're not actually liking, but they feel they should buy it. It's ridiculous. And then they wear it and it's horrible. And you're like, well, why'd you buy it?
Like Abercrombie.
Oh my God, I was reading about him the other day.
Them.
Them.
It was multiple people.
Yeah, wow.
What prompted you to launch Kennedy & Co.? And can you tell us a little bit about that? So
Kennedy & Co. is a men's skincare and grooming range. And really it was prompted by the fact that I was working with throughout my career, I started working with these amazing brands, global brands. Some of which were amazing. Most of them actually were really good products, but oftentimes they felt unattainable and outside the reach of most people's budgets. And also, I kind of was looking at Ireland and I'm like, when you think of Ireland, there's like green fields, there's like lots of open space, there's clean air, there's all of this type of thing. Like that needs to be harnessed in terms of men's grooming. And that's how
all this moss. What do we do with
all
it?
this? Let's put it in a container, sell it.
How do you think that men's grooming has changed over the last couple of decades?
Well, I think men actually groom now.
Right.
Whereas a couple of decades
There's
ago,
not like a slur for men that smell good now?
Huh? Yeah.
Metrosexual. Do you remember that?
I do, yeah. Yeah.
They had to come up with a slur for men that wore deodorant.
Isn't that awful?
Kind of fun.
Yeah.
It says a lot about us.
I think it's nice though, because it goes hand in hand with how men feel about themselves. It's like people are often very quick to slight. So actually, when I was growing up, so this is coming back to the Ireland thing. A guy who looked well or took care of himself, there'd be people like, oh, he has notions, or he's gay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but no, someone has notions. They think they're better. They think they're great. And it was kind of it's an awful thing because you shouldn't. If you take care of yourself, it shouldn't be frowned upon or disparaged. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whereas now it's like it's the opposite, right? It's like we all know that how we take care of your mental health, your physical well-being, and how you present yourself to the world. They all kind of go hand in hand. They're interlinked on some level.
Do Irish people actually use Irish spring soap? Is that a
I've
popular
never heard
soap?
of it in my life. Yeah. Normally, if something's called Irish something, it doesn't exist in Ireland.
Get the fuck out. All right.
Yeah. It's like, so anything that I've seen on the supermarkets here that's actually branded Irish X, I've never heard of it before in my life.
Kind of like Outback Steakhouse.
What's that?
Well, it's like the Australian restaurant that like no Australian will ever set foot in.
Yeah, probably.
They've got some like super bogan guy as their like it's almost like a Aussie caricatures, the no rules, just right guy.
Yeah, like some Irish bars.
Fanny McFloyd's and all of those.
Yeah, they can be. Although I think the tide has changed on that, though. I think the diddly eye Irish bar that used to kind of propagate around the world as being Irish has changed. They're more sophisticated.
I think it was George Carlin who said that they should charge like $50,000 a year for people to use words like ye or like e at the end of old to like put the names on their pubs.
Yes,
It's like
I agree.
a pretension tax.
Yeah, I agree.
I would love if you could tell everybody what you're up to right now and where they can find you and what you're working on so people can keep up with you.
Okay, I was
There's a
getting nervous.
lot going on
I
here.
always get nervous when someone asks me what are you working on. I'm like, oh my God, am I doing enough?
Where else can we find you? When this show ends and they're like, we need more Darren, where can they come find you?
Instagram's probably the easiest place at Darren Kennedy Official. But right now I am, as you mentioned earlier on, I am contributing editor with the Daily Front Row. So that's a new cap I'm wearing, shall we say. And I write a weekly column called, even though it's called The Daily Darren, but because it's the Daily Front Row, it's a weekly column.
Perfect.
I'm also hosting Celebrity Closets, where I get to delve inside some of our favourite A-list celebrities and go in rifling through their closets and take them on a trip down memory lane for TV.
Wow.
And I'm working with Access Hollywood and Access Daily on NBC.
Last question. When do you sleep?
You know, I just get a good solid 8 hours a night and I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I lied. I have one more question.
Go on.
In the most Irish slangy way possible, can you tell me what happened to your foot and why it's currently in a boot?
So I'm a feckin' Aegis because I was walking up a hill in a rush because I was late for lunch. And I decided I'm going to jump this wall because the dope in front of me was walking very slowly. And I didn't realize I was on a hill and I misjudged it. And boom, ended up with stitches in my right leg, which I had, it's healing quite well. And then chipped the bone in my foot. Not pleasant. Ooh. Oh my God. Do you know what I did though? Sorry, I'm going to tell you this. So I'm super phobic to needles. And so I ended up I went home. I was like bleeding out on the street and I lay down. I went home and cleaned it all myself. I'm like, this is fine. I don't need stitches because I was so afraid of needles. A couple of hours later, I'm like, okay, I have a gaping hole in my leg. I need to go and get the seen to. I went to the urgent care. I was so terrified about the needles. I didn't mention my foot, which then transpires 2 days later to be chipped.
Chipped?
Yeah, chipped bone.
Oh, like, not like you're missing a toe or something.
No, chipped bone. But this was freaking me out. So I had hypnosis last week to see if I can get over my phobia of needles.
Did it work?
Yeah. Well,
I can go get a needle.
have you got needles?
Sure.
Why have you got needles?
Sewing kit.
Oh my God, no, not those needles. More like a needle, something that, you know, if it's going to take something out of me or like, you know what I mean?
I get you.
To be continued.
I just don't like going to medical places. It's a really weird decorum required. And I have a really hard time fighting the giggles. Like I could be on death's door and still like...
Really?
It's weird.
Oh, no.
Churches, like anything where you're supposed to behave a
Churches,
certain
I'm
way.
fine.
No, anywhere, like it'll surprise me. I'll like walk into like the DMV and all of a sudden I get the giggle fits because like I'm not sure. Like there's like a way that I know I'm supposed to act and my body just like won't do it.
Everyone goes really stoic and quiet and kind of
Grumpy.
I'm here to renew my license.
Please.
Please. Am I at the right counter? I'm foreign. Where should I go?
That's amazing. My brother's a doctor and I hate going to medical places. So I always just FaceTime him and I go, super glue or stitches? And he'll let me know. Usually super glue.
So I'm actually, I'm getting slightly clammy now at the thoughts of this. That's how bad I am.
You've never used super glue to like patch up a
The
cut?
thoughts of all of it.
Oh.
Like it makes me kind of feel a little ill.
All right, well then we'll wrap this up.
But it's okay, you can keep going.
We should make our fight me about needles. As always, we like to end this show on a low note, a fight. Darren has selected a controversial, maybe, topic. From a list of controversial topics, he has decided which side he wants to argue, and he has decided that he wants to go first or second.
First, why not?
Okay. Should people wash their hands after using the bathroom? Fight me.
If you don't wash your hands after going to the bathroom, I don't want to know you. And I was in the airport recently, and then this guy was in a stall, and I'll spare you the details, but he wasn't just, it was obvious that he had to use the bathroom, okay, because it was a stink. And he came out and just walked, he fixed his hair, didn't so much as touch the tap, and walked straight out. And I just found that disgusting. And then it happened again where the guy was working in a very well-known coffee store, and I'd seen him in the restroom again, came out, didn't wash his hands, and went back into his job serving people coffee and cakes. And I just think it's vile. How can you even defend this? Do you wash your hands?
Is that your time?
Oh, I'm just having a chat. Has this been timed?
Oh, you got to make your case. No, I'm not allowed to
That's it.
interrupt you.
Okay. You're an animal if you don't wash your hands after going to the toilet. There you go. Fight me.
Darren. I don't think you realize how destructive it is to compare a group of people to animals. I know that they do things differently
You're going off topic
in
now.
Ireland, but here in America, we value respect for our fellow man and we value our freedom. For you to come to my country and tell me what to do with my hands, with my body. You know, there's a saying in the Army, there's a story basically about an Army guy and a Navy guy, and they're peeing next to each other at a urinal, and it's not going to end the way you think it does or want it to. But the Army guy washes his hands, the Navy guy doesn't, and he confronts him after. He says, yeah, man, in the Army, they teach us to wash our hands after the bathroom. And the Navy guy, Marine guy, whatever the other branches says, well, in the Navy, they taught us to keep our dicks clean. And I think there's something to be said about that. What are you so ashamed of that you have to wash your hands every single time you do anything? And you know, there's a lot of gross stuff out there, and you would be surprised with germ theory. First of all, some germs are good for you. It helps build immunity. It's like having your small child playing, oh, I'm out of time. I have so much more to talk about. Don't tell me what to do. Fight me. That was hard.
Yeah.
That was one of the harder ones.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate all these wonderful insights.
Pleasure.
This is a Wellness Loud production produced by Drake Peterson and Jake Wachtel. Additional production by Cass Falding and Chantilly Toison. Edited by Jesse Trout and mixed by Mike Fry. Music by Tom Goss. If you like this show, don't forget to share it with your friends, subscribe on your preferred channel, or all of them, and give us a 5-star rating. It would be super, super helpful. Thank you so much to all my Patreon subscribers. You are credited in the show notes. Thank you for listening. See you next time.